Hi guys, welcome to another episode of our full stack mobile development series. In today's episode, we are going to focus on our verification screen. We are going to integrate the verification endpoint as well as the Resend verification endpoint in case the user does not receive the verification code within the 5 minutes specified up here. All right, so to begin, we head over to our Android Studio, to the controllers, our Auth controller, and then we are going to create another method. This is the registration method we created. We can just go ahead and duplicate this and then specify this to be the verification. Okay, so for the verification, we need them to just provide us with the OTP. We already know who the user account is, and we got it from the sign up. So we just have to persist the user account and then use it to proceed. Okay, so here I need the OTP. Okay, if we look at our verification endpoint here, we head over to the controllers, API auth, and then we scroll down to the verify here. You realize it requires only the OTP. The API request has to come with a bearer token, which we will then use to get the user. Okay, so we have to update our API service to also come with the bearer token. Okay, so we head over to our API service, and here we have to add the bearer token to the header. Okay, and to do that, we have to first persist the bearer token when the user logs in, and then use it throughout the entire application. Okay, all right. So to do this, we need to either use a shared preference or SQLite to store this data on the local device. But for this project, we are going to go ahead and use a package called Hive, which is a very decent, lightweight NoSQL database. You could also use SQL Lite or any other ORM you prefer. Okay, but for this project, we are just going to use Hive. And so I'm just going to head over to the documentation and then install Hive. Okay, so we have to add Hive to our dependencies, Hive Flutter to the dependency, as well as the generator to the dev dependencies. Okay, so let me just first head over to here, installing, and then I need to copy this, head over to the terminal, and then add. Okay, now I also, according to the documentation, I also need a Hive Flutter. So I'm just going to do the same thing, Hive Flutter. And then I need to add Hive generator to my dev dependency. Okay, so I can just go ahead and look at the, so I can just copy this. If I run this, it's going to add it to my dependency, but I want it to be added to my dev dependency. So I can just go ahead and copy this, head over to my pubspec.yaml file here to the dev dependencies, as you can see, and then just public it. Okay, so now we've installed Hive. We can go ahead and create our models for the user. Okay, apart from Hive, there are other ORMs that you could use. I'm going to show you a bit of them. Like this, which gives you SQLite for Flutter. But you realize you have to be writing some of these queries to perform operations. With Hive, you don't need to do this. There are also ORMs like Yaru, which is by Code Keys. It's a very relatively young ORM, but it's really good. I've used it, tested it a couple of times, but for this project, we're just going to focus on Hive. Okay, so we'll first go ahead into our models here and create a new DAT file. We're going to call it model, user, sorry. So this is our user model. You realize that in our previous models, we appended the name model, but we didn't do so for the result. We are going to fix that. So I'm going to have my class user model. Okay, and then this is going to have the payload from the API. So here, if I come to the user, if I register, this is what I get. So I get the user and then the token. We want to persist that into the user model. So we have the ID, name, email, verify that in the timestamps here. So I'm going to have my late string ID because it's a UUID, the name, the email, and you realize that the email verified that can be nullable. So we have a nullable string email verified at here we're going to convert this into lowercase gamma. Okay, and then we have the late daytime, created that, as well as the updated that. Okay, so these are fields. We can go ahead and then implement the model using Hive. Okay, so to do that, we head over to Hive. Let's look at the documentation. Okay, so no, sorry, the documentation is here. Create a Hive object. Okay, so here we need to specify that is a Hive type, and we have to specify the fields for this. Okay, and we need to add the path. So we first add the path, which is going to be our user.g.that, just as we did for the results and over here. And then we specify that this is a Hive type. Now for the type ID, it has to be unique. So we start from 1, 2, 3, and we keep counting as we add new ones. So the user is going to be type 1. And then we have to specify these as fields. Okay, so Hive field. So index 0 is the ID, index 1 is the name. We do the same thing for this. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, we also wanted to persist the token so that we get the user token. So late string token. Okay, and there's the set one. Okay, and then we've already imported this. Now we also need to specify one thing. Now for Hive, you need to have a name of a box. So Hive uses boxes. So the name of the box, I would want us to also specify that here. So we're going to say static string user box, and it's going to be users. Okay, so that's the name of the box we are going to use this later on in the application. So I just want to specify that here. Let me just close this first. Okay, so now we have this. We now need to generate this, and because we added the build runner, and Hive generator is going to generate that file for us. Okay, so to do that, we just head over to terminal. We write that run build runner build. Okay, now this is going to run the build runner in the Hive generator, and it's going to create the path files that we specified. Okay, so now we have the new file here, which has the code that we do not want to write. Okay, so now once we have this, it will create an adapter. Now this is what we are going to use to communicate to our local store. Once we have the adapter, we first have to head over to our main app here, and then we need to initialize the Hive box that we've created, the adapter that we've created. Okay, so first we want to say that hive.init Flutter. Okay, and then we're going to await this, and we need to import this not from the Hive but from the Hive Flutter. Okay, all right, and then we need to add the async modifier here. And then next we want to say hive.register adapter, and then we are going to specify our user model adapter we created from the user.g here. Okay, so now once this is done, we have set up Hive, and then we've specified that for the user model. We can go ahead and remove this because it's no the Hive Flutter would import it. Okay, now once this is done, the last thing is we've created a Hive box, we've created a user model. Now we need to save the user model. So I'm just going to go to services, created that file, call it auth, and this is going to be class auth service. Okay, and then here I'm going to have the logic of storing the user's data and removing it and all that. So the first one I'm going to have is I'm going to have a method that returns the user model, which here is create, and then I'm going to have a map of a string dynamic, which is going to be the user, and then a string, which is going to be the token. Okay, so I want to get these two, the user and the token. So this map string dynamic, this a string. Okay, now with this, I'm going to say that the Hive So var, let's make it even fine. So user box is equal to hive.open. So let me here, I want to import hive.open box. Okay, and now remember the user box we created here, so that every time we want to make changes to the user box, we do not have to change this service class anymore. So here, and then this is an async, so I want to await this operation. Okay, so now this opens up the box for us, and then we want to create the user. But before that, realize we want to have only one user registered in this application. So when we open the box, which is the table that we are using here, we want to clean up the table before we even put anything in there. So we're going to say await user box dot clear. So this should remove everything in there. Now let's create our user. So our user model, sorry, it's going to be a new user model, as you have here. And now we specify these fields. So we have the name, the ID, and all that. So user model dot name is equal to our user map, and then we are getting the name field. Now we do the same thing for the ID, email verified at, so email verified at. Okay, and the one other thing, in the user model, we said the email verified that is a string. Sorry, it's going to be a datetime. We are going to have a look at it. So when I make this change, then I have to run this again. All right, it's just going to take a few seconds. Okay, so now it's there. Now with this, it's going to come as a string like these ones, and we have to convert it into a datetime. So we are going to say that if this is not equal to null, okay, then we want to say that datetime dot pass, and then we pass our string. If it's null, then we just want to return null. So that's what we want to do. So if this is null, then we do this. If not, we return that. Okay. Next, we take the user model dot created that, which is going to be also a datetime dot pass, and then we get our created that. Okay, and then the same thing for the updated that. So this, and the final thing is the token, which you're already getting from here. So token. Okay, so now once this is done, we then store this user model in our box and then return it to the user. So we say await the user box dot put, and because we're saying that only one user is going to be logged in, we're just going to put it at index 0. We're going to put this user model and then return the user model. Sorry. Okay, so now this should create the user. All right, we can also then specify this as static so that we can just use it in the controller. Okay, let me minimize this and then head over to my controller. So here, when the user logs in successfully, this is where we are going to get it. Now let's just for now print what we get from the response data. Okay, so that's the data we get from the response. I'm just going to show this, and then we are going to register. So test user, and then we're going to say test user 1 at gmail.com, and the password is 123456. Okay, and then we want to make one quick thing before we test this thing. So here we head over to this. When the user successfully logs in, for now we don't want to navigate them to net verification. Okay, all right, so then I head over to the controllers here, and then I want to print. Oh, I place the print in the verification. It should be here. Okay, so this is the registration. So when they register, now you realize that this is the This is the user payload. Sorry, these are results that we get from our endpoints, just as this one. Okay, now we have the user, which is in the results. So let's first get our results out. So var results. It's going to be final result is equal to the response.data results. Okay, so now this should just return our user and token. So let's go ahead and test that. We want to change this so that we can register again. Now I realize we have this now. Okay, so at this point we can say that our user model, final user model, is equal to our auth service dot create, and then it needs the user and the token. Now we have that from the results here. So results map, we get the user, and the results map, we get the token. Okay, just as we have down here, and this is a feature, so you have to await. Okay, now to make sure that this works, let's print what we get. So user model, let's print the name from after saving the record. So here, change this to 4, and then we sign up. Okay, so now it's talking about the Hive. You need to initialize Hive, and that's because when we added this to the main, we did not restart the app. So we're just going to restart the entire application and then do this all over again. So here, test user +5@gmail.com 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then we are going to do it. So now I realize the name is printed here. Okay, so that means that we've saved the record and then we have the name. Okay, so we remove this and then we return this as the result, okay, to the view. Okay, so now here we redirect them to this. Okay, so now let's test this. At 6 we redirect them, so now we have this. Okay, what happens when the user restarts the application? When the user restarts the application, because they've already started the process and they were at verification, we have to take them to verification instead of just this screen. So to do that, we head over to our main, and the app starts from the initial route is the splash. So in the splash here, this is where we redirect them. So what we are going to do is over here, we are going to look at the box we have and check if there's a user. If there's a user logged in, then we just continue from where they left off. So we are going to do that here. And to do that, I'm just going to use a helper to return the current route the user should be on. So in my helper here, I create a static string and I'm going to say get route, or no, initial route. Okay, now this is going to rely on the auth service to get the user. Okay, and to do that, we just need to do a static user model. It can be nullable, that means the user is not logged in, and then we are going to do the same thing. Okay, so we need this, but we do not need to clear. What we need to do is we need to get the user. So final user model, and that means in the Hive box, I want to await this dot get at, you realize the index we specified here was 0, so get at index 0. Okay, and I need to add the async. Okay, so here we have our user and we want to return our user, but we want to return our user as this, so we want to pass the type, and that means it's a nullable user model, right? So that it matches the type here. So the user can be null. If there's nothing in there, we should just return a null version of it. So in here, we are going to say that final user, I could just say user model, just the user, sorry, is equal to the auth service dot get. Okay, and then I want to await this, and that's because of the open operation, and add this. So now if the user is null, that means there's no user account. Okay, I want to simply just return the app route, there's walkthrough. Okay, so that means there is no user logged in. Now if there's a user logged in, Okay, I want to check that if the user dot email verify that if they verify their email address, okay, it's now. Then we take the user to the verification screen. Okay, anything else, mean the user is logged in, the user is verified and everything, then we just return the user to the main screen. So here I can just go ahead and create a new route called home, and in my helper here, if everything works as it should do, then I return the user to the home screen. So this is the logic. For now, we're going to keep improving this. That's why we are putting it in here. So in my splash screen, I want to say that final route is equal to await the helper dot initial route, and I need to import this and add the assignment file. Okay, so now here, this is my route, and then instead of saying this, I'll rather go to this. Okay, so now this is our logic. Let's restart the application. Because there's a user logged in, it takes you straight to the verification screen. Now let's show the email of the user that's logged in. So on our verification screen, here we go to our screens of verification. We first want to split this. Now if you realize that English is a bit off, we send verification code. Let's fix that. So we go to the verification code hint and say that we have sent a verification code to your email. Okay, so that's the email. We are going to do that. If you look at the UI that we have here, it shows the email like this, and that's, we do not want, for now, let's not mask the email. Let's just show the full email, and then you realize these are two different. So let me split this into two. So this is one and this is two. So to your email is, or this is the first part, and or this is the second part. Okay, now we are going to update this. So this will show the first part. We have sent a verification code to your, and then we show the user's email, and then the second part. Okay, to do this, I'm just going to change this to rich text, and then this is going to be my text span, and the test is this, and I'm going to have the children, which is going to have a text span, and the test is going to be the second one. Okay, so we have the two here, and then in between I want to put some space. So widget span up spacing dots horizontal, and then I want a size of just 4. Okay, so there's a space in between the two of them, and then in between the two tests I want to show my email address. Okay, so the test is to your email, and we have to add that to this. So to your email. Okay, and then I could just go ahead and restart this. Okay, so after 3 seconds you are taken to this. Okay, good. Now let's get the user's email. So I'm going to have a final user up here. I just, for now, let's make it a user model, which is nullable user. Okay, so that's the user. It's nullable, and in the init state, I'm going to initialize it. So I'm going to create an init screen here, and then this is going to be void init screen. Now this is going to just load the user. So here, the user is equal to await auth service gets the user, and because we've made it nullable, right, because we've made it nullable, it means that there could be a record or not. Okay, now what then we do here is let's duplicate this, copy this one, and then in the test here we want to show the user email. Okay, now because it's nullable, we want to show this and then append the full stop to it. Okay, so this, and then we change it to interpolation. No, it's going to be now, right? And then, or what we can say is, yeah, now we just use this for now. Okay, so that's our interpolation, and then the style is going to be our app styles dot medium, and then we are going to specify the color, which is our primary color as shown in the UI here, and then our comma here. So because we've added this new, we just want to restart the entire application. Okay. So now you realize that there was a slight delay showing you now and then the test user. So now we have this. This is the user's email. Okay. And then you can do this. We then can go ahead and send the verification code again. Okay. We can do this. And let's go ahead and then fix the null and then we do the time. Okay. So here, what we can also say is this. If the user is not null, okay, then we show this, right? So I'm just going to go to my run and restart the entire application. So once the user is not null, yes, then it shows the email address. Okay. Now we realize we are going straight because there's a user. Okay, and then we now want to add something that was not on the UI. What happens if my email is wrong and I want to change the email address or want to use another email address? Okay, so we need to do something that will let the user be able to go back and then put in a new email address. Okay, so here we're just going to copy the I did not receive a verification code, which is this hint here. And then we are going to duplicate this, take it back, and then say that's not, and then not user. So we want to say that if it's not you, so not, and then user logout. Okay, so we want to log out the user if it's not you, and then create a new user. Okay, so not user logout. Now what we are just trying to say is not, oh sorry, I think we changed we changed this instead, so not user logout. Okay, so here on the verification screen, not user logout. Okay, so we want to say if it's not the user, then we want to log out, and then here we want to replace the user with the user.name. Okay, so that's the user's name. For now, we just, if it's not set, we just want to return this. Okay, just restart everything. Okay, so not test, log out. So that's the name of the user. So if it's not, you are not test, then you log out. We want to, I think we want to center this a bit. So test align. Center. Okay, so not this user, we want to log out. Not this, we want to log out. Not that, we want to log out. Okay, so when they tap on this, we want to log out the user. So log out, yeah, and then we can just specify void log out. And then this is going to await our auth controller. Okay, and then we are logging out because we at this point we have a token, so we want to just log out the user. So auth verification here. We had registration. I think this should be verified. Okay, and then we want to create another one, which is logout. Okay, and that requires nothing. And then here we're just going to duplicate this for now, and then post. So we have register URL, and then in our PHP, in our routes API, we've not set up the logout yet, but we have to specify the logout. Okay, but let's for now do this as logout. Okay, and now let's define our logout endpoint here as well. So if you go to the auth, we need to have one endpoint to log out the user. and then we say logout. We are not validating anything because there's no request, and we already have the user just as we have here. So at this point we get the user and then we log out the user. So we clean all the tokens the user has and then we end the session. Okay, so here we say that tokens, and so here we can either log out that current session the user has on that mobile phone. So if you have 2 or 3 mobile phones and you are logged in on all of them, you can log out on one, or you can log out on all of them from one. So for this one, we just want to log them out on one. So we say that user current access token, and this from Sanctum. And then we say that delete, and then we return logout success. Okay, we do not want to specify this at this point. There's no results, it's just a message telling the user that they've logged out. Okay, we can also get this straight away from this. We do not necessarily need to do this. Okay, okay. Okay, okay. And we also need to get this from, sorry, we need to get this from the request user. So the request, this current request, the user, the current access token, and delete, not from the auth user, yeah, from this request. Okay, and then we log out this. Now we need to specify this message. So we have login, and then we have logout successful. Okay, so we have this, and then we see this. So okay, so we have our logout endpoint specified, and then we have our logout endpoint here, and in the auth we have the logout, okay, which has no body, and then we want to get a message and return the message. So the message, so if the logout is successful, okay, we just want to take the auth service and then clean up all the users. So we want to log out the user. So we want to delete the user. This is just going to be a boolean telling us that it's done. So here we just clear everything and we do not even want to return anything. Okay, so here we do that and we say auth service dot delete, but we await this, and then we return a message from the API. So we can see that response dot data, and then just as we got the results from here, okay, we can just go ahead and then get the message also. So results dot data, and then want to get a message from the data. So at this point, we've cleaned the user from the system, and then we've logged them out. So that's what the logout is about. So over here, we just say logout, and then once the logout has happened, we go to navigator.push replacement name, and then we want to go to the navigation app routes dot walkthrough. Okay, so when the logout has happened, then we just navigate back to the walkthrough. Okay, but then we want to say that if we want to get the results, so the final result from this is success. So if it's not successful, right, then we want to show the message and the error message. So we want to import our helper snack bar, and the message is going to be the results.message. Okay, and we've done this already. Okay, message. Okay, and then we return instead of navigating. All right, now this is going to throw an error, but let's go ahead and test it. So here, when we tap on this, it says unauthenticated. All right, we need to also specify the success is false. Okay, now let's go ahead and try it again. It says unauthenticated. That means the user has not been authenticated. And if you look at the endpoint, we are checking the auth middleware. Let's look at it in our Postman. So in our login, when we log in the user, we get this token, and then I'm going to duplicate this and say that logout. So if you realize when we were verifying the account, we were passing this auth bearer token. So I'm going to copy this, and then in my logout, I'm just going to change this as logout. Now, if I call this, it's unauthenticated, but in my header, in the authorization, if I pass this bearer token, then it's logout successful. Now, if I log out and I want to do it again, it's unauthenticated. So that means in our API service, where we are making this logout call here, we need to pass the header. Okay, so to do that, what we are going to do is over here, we are going to get the user and then pass it. And to do that, we're just going to say auth service.get, which should get us the user. Okay, now if the user is specified, then here we have this. Just go ahead and format this a bit. So we have to pass a bearer token, and you can look that here. So we have our bearer token as the header that we are passing to this. Okay, so authorization, this here, authorization, and this is going to be a bearer and then the user token. So bearer plus the user that we have here. So we just have to await it, and the token, and this is nullable, and we want to replace with interpolation. Okay, so we get the auth, the bearer, and the user token. So we have to do the same thing for the get, and in our header here, just go ahead and copy these whole options here. Okay, so as you can see, that's it. So now you have our bearer token. Now let's go ahead and test it. If I tap on this, now it's done. Okay, but there's also another thing that we want to do. Now let's verify that this has happened. So we just restart the application. Because there's no user, the application should throw an error because we are trying to get a user at a particular index and it does not happen. And that's why you have this error here. That we're trying to get index, but there's no index. Okay, so in our get here, right here, we need to make sure that there's a user there before we even do anything. Okay, and to do that, what we are saying is that here we want to check to make sure that this box is not even empty after all, because what we are doing is we are clearing the box. So if the user box is empty, then we just want to return now because it's empty. And if it's not empty, we just get the user and then we proceed. So let's restart the entire application. There's no user in there, so it has to then take us back. So let's test this again. So test user, and then just put this here, test user plus 40 at 50 at gmail.com, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then we sign up. Now this shows that, and then not user down here. All right, now another thing is when we log out the user while the time is running, we might have issues because we are supposed to be disposing some of these things off. So I'm going to first do that in my verification. Let's do that first in the sign up. So in the sign up, we are using all of this, but we are not disposing them off. Ideally, we are supposed to be doing that. Okay, so over here, I'm going to say that I have my, okay. So here I have my override dispose. Okay, so I'm going to first take my name, dispose it, my email, dispose it, and then the password, dispose it. And then I'm also going to dispose the focus notes here. So my name, focus, my email, focus, and then my password, focus. Okay, so I've done that for the sign up screen. Now let's do the dispose for this one also. So here, let's override dispose. Okay, so we have to dispose this list that we generated here, and we generated 6. So for each controller. So for our controller, in the controllers, I want to say controller dot, and then I dispose it. Okay, so for each, and then I do the same thing for my focus nodes. Let me take this down for my focus nodes, and I say focus node. For each of them also I dispose. Okay, now one last thing is, if you look at the timer here, we are setting the timer in here, and we need to dispose it. That means you need to assign it to a local variable. So here I'm going to say that timer is equal to a timer, nullable timer here, and now this is equal to this. Okay, so I assign this to that, and then I can dispose of my timer. And now because this is null, you just have to check if it's nullable. Okay, so basically we've handled this. All right, now let's go ahead and test it again. Now if we tap on this, it logs out nicely, and we won't have any memory leak issue. I think we have a couple of them, but we just have to fix everything now. Okay, now let's test everything all over again. So John Doe is the user, jdoe@example.com. 1 2 3 4 5 6, and we sign in. Okay, now not John Doe, and then when we tap on this, it logs out. Now you don't have any memory leaks or anything. Okay, so now that's it. Now let's work on the timer, resending the verification code, and then also verifying the account. So I'm just going to log in as John Doe. I'm going to sign up as John Doe. We are not logging in now. Example.com 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so now we have to verify. We have to first, let's work on the resend, and then we work on the verify. Okay, so when the timer is running here, we do not want them to be able to resend the verification code, so we have to disable this. But once the timer is done, then we should be able to allow them to resend the verification code. Okay, so in our verification, the verification screen here, for now, let's just first work on when the verification code passes, and then we can then work on the resend the verification code. No. Or we can, anyway, let's just work on the resend, and then we work on the verification. So we are just going to first take out the start timer so that it does not start when the page loads. Okay, and then we're going to have this. Okay, so now we have that the timer has not started. Okay, when the user taps on the resend the verification code, we want to resend them the new verification code. Okay, so here we want to, instead of saying start timer, we want to say resend. Yeah, so I want to have a void, and we can just have it here, void resend. Okay, all right, so this is just like that, but here we do not, we just showing them what the message is, and then if it's an error, we show them result is success. Okay, and we just show them exactly what the message is. All right, now if the result dot is success, then we want to start the timer. Okay, so if it's successful, then we want to start the timer. All right, now let's work on, instead of logout, we want to have the resend. So I just copy this as well, and then resend. Okay, so if you look at the resend OTP, yeah, OTP is just API OTP and it has no body. Okay, so same thing, has no body. So OTP URL, and this is supposed to be OTP straight, and then we have this as resend. Let me just change this. It's let me just call it OTP. I'm just going to go ahead and change it to my, yeah, so OTP, and then this is going to have the OTP URL, And when everything is fine, we just want to return the data message. Okay, we want to return the message to the user. Nothing has happened, and if there are any errors, we show the error. Okay, so the same thing. And all right, so now once we have this, we tap on this. We want to also make sure that if it's not running, we don't want to show them the code. So if the timer is not null, okay, so if the timer is not null and the timer is active, okay, so because we've checked this, then we want to return. Okay, if not, we want to proceed. So we save this, we go ahead and we tap this, and then it says verification code sent, and then you realize the timer is happening. But now we cannot do this again, and so see, nothing happens, right? Because the time is running. Then after this, it's supposed to resend the OTP code, and we can look at our request here. So the last one was this time. That means everything is running. If there was an error, we'll get the error, but we got the message that it has been sent. So now we have to provide the valid verification code. Okay, so to do that, here when the just put the space here. So now we know that the verification code works, and we can just go ahead and save this, undo this. Okay, when the user taps on this, we want to show them like 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to submit the verification. So to verify here on press, we want to verify the account. So verify, and then here I'm just gonna do this and then verify. Okay, so when I verify, I want to set the states as loading and all that. So we need a boolean. And if you look at our sign up, you realize we did something similar with this loading. So I'm just going to copy that and bring it here. Okay. And then on my verify here, I'm going to have the is loading, which is this. And if you realize if it's loading, we do not trigger the press of it. Okay. So it's loading. And then we verify. So here we want to verify, and to verify we need the OTP, and to get the OTP we are going to say that the final OTP is all the codes in there, all the controller.txt. Okay, so we can use this approach where we say controllers.map, and then for each item in the controller we're just going to say controller here, and we have to return the controller.test.trim. Okay, and then so once we get the map and then we want to join with nothing, so they're just going to be together, we can also convert this into one-liner where we say that this. Okay, so now this will get every controller in there and then join them back into our string here, and then we are going to pass the string in here. Now if there's an error, here, we want to throw the error message. Let me not format this for now. We want to throw the error message, and then we want to return. Okay, but if there's no error and we want to even get a focus node, well, for now we just, if there's no error, then we want to navigator.push name replacement. We want to go to the app routes dot the home page. So we then say that the account has been verified, and we go to the home page. So now let's work on our verify method here. So the verify is supposed to have the verify URL. So verify, and then we can confirm that from here. So verify account is verify. So verify here. Okay, and then in our controllers, this is our verify URL, and that's our OTP. Now, when the verification is successful, you remember how we did the user. Okay, so the same thing we did with the registration. We now have to save the new model, because once we verify the account, it's going to return us a new model. So we can just go ahead and test that. So we do this. 131. Now let's send this. Okay, so now we have our token, and then we are just going to change this to our token, and then we need to get our token. So I'm going to head over to my email, and then I have my verification code, which is this one, and I'm going to put that in here and verify. You realize I get just the user, okay, and not the token. So just the user, okay, so that's just the user. And then I'm going to get the same thing from here. So I get the I copy this because that's what we used to save the user. And then so on verify, I already have this, and I have this model here. I could just say response dot data message, and then the result is the user model, just as we did here. So I have to replace this. We no longer testing, so the data message from the backend. Yeah. So at this point, you realize there's not going to be any results token, and the user is directly the one in the results. So the user here, results. Okay. So what then we have to do is we already have the token stored. We do not want to override the new token. So I'm going to have one, and then here I'm just going to update. So instead of create here, I'm just going to update the user because the user already exists, and I'm just updating what is there. Okay, so I'm just going to take this, remove that. That's our user. This update, and then there's no token to change. So we just take this. We can, instead of we can just clear instead of clearing, because you're just updating what's in the module. We can just get what's there and then update it, and to get what is there here, we get this from here. So we can just go ahead and do this. So we just take this, and here what we are going to do is on the final user. So we open our box. We do not want to clear, but then we want to check if the box is empty. So if the box, as we have here, if the box is empty, then we return null. But here we are not going to return now. We are going to throw an exception that the user does not exist. So user does not exist. And because where we are going to use this here in our auth controller here is in a try catch, it was going to catch the error. So if it does not exist, we throw this. If it does exist, then we get the user boss gets at index 0. And then what we are going to do is, because this is a map and we update, we want to patch the record. So we are not going to always send the ID name, and or we are going to send just parts of the record. So here what we are going to do is, if the ID exists in the map, then use it. If not, use the one in the database. Okay, so we are going to do this for all of them. So this is the name, okay, and the email. So here we are going to just change this and say that's the email verified at. Okay, we're going to do what we do here for the time for the updated that and the created that. So let me just copy this first, change this to this, and this to the created that, and then change this to updated that. Okay, so basically what we are doing is that if the map has these values, use them. If not, keep the one in the database, and then we are going to put it back. Okay, so I'm going to then head to my auth here and then change this to update. All right, so now let's go ahead and test this whole thing. So I'm just going to refresh the application. I already have this account logged in, so I'm just going to log out, sign up again as, and then my email is just going to do plus, and then 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, now over here in the auth service, in the update here, so in my verify, what I'm doing is, if I get the OTP, I pass in I get the results. If it's error, I pass this. If it's success, I navigate to the home route. We do not have that yet, So I'm just going to comment this out and then let's test this. Okay, so over here in my application, I'm just going to sign up. And then now what happens if I pass the wrong code? It tells me invalid verification code. Realize there's no loading state, so let's fix the loading state. If you look at the sign up we have on our sign up screen, in the Auth sign up screen, we had a loading state here, and we can just go ahead and duplicate that, copy that, sorry, over to this, and then we do not want to make it final because we're going to set the state. So in our verify here, what we are going to do is we're going to set the state, and this is going to be true when it's loading, and then it's going to be false when it's done. Okay, so that's it. And then we are going to pass the loading state to this. So it's loading is equal to my is loading here. All right, now let's change this. If it's downloading, it's false. Sorry. Now let's go ahead and test this. So realize it's fast, pretty fast. That's why you don't see anything. And then another thing is for the reset, if they resend the code, we also want to maintain set the loading state. So I'm just going to copy this here and then make the call and then set it back. Also make sure that this checks if it's this or it's not loading. Okay, so that's one. And then I think we also want to do the same thing on the logout. So when the person is logging out, you want to keep the state. So if the system is loading, if it's in the loading state, we do not want the user to log out, right? So here we say if it's loading, sorry, we want to return. So if it's loading, we don't want you to log out. Okay, so the timer is here. Because the timer is running, we cannot resend until after 2 minutes. But here, if I send this, reset. So now let's get the correct email. So the code is 285273. So 28527. Now if I pass the 3 and I verify, if nothing is going to happen because we've commented out what happens. It's supposed to go to the home, but we do not have the home screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to my main, say home, and now I need to define a home screen. So in my views, for now, I'm just going to drop a home screen here, and then that's going to be a stateful widget. Call it home screen. Okay, import this, and then there's going to be a scaffold with the background, which is my app colors bg color. Now the app bar is going to be our build function. We had build app bar app strings dot app name, and then over here we are going to have the body. For now, I'm just going to have a center, and in the inside the center, I'm going to have a child, which is a test button. Yeah, because we are going to use it for something. And then in my text button, I'm going to have app strings. My child is going to be a test app strings. Yeah, I'm just going to use log out. So on the home screen, we just want the user to log out. Okay, so log out, and then I have my on pressed. So I'm just going to duplicate what we have in the on press here for the logouts. Okay, so just gonna have this logout and then the loading states. For now, we don't want to keep track of any loading state on this because we are going to remove this at the end of the day and put a proper home screen there. So this is going to be my logout, and then that is it. And this can be on the end. Okay, so that's my home screen. So in my app here, then I put what my home screen is as my home screen. Okay, good. So now we've set up the home screen. I can verify and then we have to, nothing happened, and that's because we have to first set this to this logout verification here, uncomment this. Okay, and then I have an error here. Oh, sorry, this uncomment this instead. Okay, so now invalid verification code because the verification code has been used and our timer is already up. So you can go ahead and resend a new one. Realize the state has changed. New verification code has been sent. So let me clean this one. Go to my inbox. I have a new message 992. So let's go 992792 and then we verify. Good. Now we are on the home page. So that's our verification configured. We can test the whole flow again. First log out, sign up here. So devsafo user. My email is devsafo02@gmail.com. 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then I sign up, and then the time starts counting. That's my email. That's my name down here. If I go to my inbox, I have a new one. That's the name, and then I have to enter the correct code. So 259. Let's put in the wrong one, 210 instead of 219, and then we verify it's wrong. Now, as soon as I change this to 9 and I verify, it takes me to the home page. Now, if I should restart the entire application, I'm supposed to be taken straight to the home page because I have a user logged in and I have verified my account. So that's the whole logic on the verification screen. Okay, let's make some few improvements to the code we've written. Yeah, we have this, the logout is here, goes to the log screen, and then this starts the timer, and then this verifies the user. Okay, I think so far everything looks good. All right, so that's it for the verification screen. We can also test one more thing. So test now, and the email is devsafo03@gmail.com. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then I sign up. Now what happens if I tap this without putting any field? That you realize the input field is required because we are sending nothing to the backend and we have to verify that. So if you look at our verification screen here, we have this form key that we have not used, and to do that we have to go to our input fields down here, change this to a form which will return that row. Okay, and then let me expand my row. I have my key, which is the form key. Okay, right, so now when the user taps on verify, we need to validate the form, and to do that we are going to say that if the form key dot current state dot validate fails. Okay, so if it's false, we have to also set this as that. Okay, so if it fails, we need to return. So we don't even want to proceed if it fails. Okay, so we need to just return. Or if it's loading, we also want to return. So we don't want to proceed, just as we did for this one. We don't want to load again when it's already loading. Okay, and so let's test this. If you tap this, you realize it still goes, and that's because we have not added the form validation to this. So here, if you remember, in our component form text input, we had this validator here, which was doing this validation. We can bring that here and make a few adjustments. So here, if the value is null or is empty, we want to return. So let me just say pin. Okay, and let me just tap on this. You realize it says pin, right? Now what we want to do is we want to just return asterisk. For now, let's just return asterisk to show the user that that field is required. So you realize that's the asterisk, but the asterisk is to the side, and then we have the indicator there. So okay, and then we want to specify the auto validator mode. So we want to specify the auto validator mode. So auto validate mode dot on user interaction. So when the user types something, then it leaves. Okay, so that's just to show the user. Okay. All right. Okay. So for now, let's just show the cursor so that the user knows exactly where they are on the field. We can go ahead and restart the entire application. And then here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Apparently showing the cursor makes a lot more sense so that they know which field they are on compared to leaving them without the cursor. Okay. Okay. So when they tap in, then I need to type something. Then so let's restart it again. Realize when they restart, there's no error, there's nothing. When they tap on the field, then they get the cursor. So what we also want to do is when the screen shows up, okay, we want to autofocus. So in the init state, here on the init screen, once we do this, we want to say that the controllers, the first one in there, should request focus. So, oh, sorry, the focus nodes, the first one in there should request focus. Okay. So when the screen is initialized, the first one in there should request focus. And I can show you again. Restart. Good. So it automatically shows the inputs for them. And then you verify and the verification code is invalid. So now let's use the actual verification code. And then we can show that's here. So test final, as you can see, that's my name. The code is 337150. And then I verify. Good. So that's our verification screen. We've also been able to persist the user. So when the user restarts the application and they have gone through all the process, it's here. They can log out because there's a user, and when they log out, they'll be taken back. And now when you restart the application, it does not have a user, so it will ask you to log in. So here, let's also test if the user comes back and continues the verification process. So benanzafo devsafo +04 at gmail.com 123456 terms and conditions. Okay, good. Now if the user should restart the application at this point or comes back to continue, they should be sent straight to the verification screen, right? And as you can see, the details are there, and that's the name, and they can log out. So that's it for today's episode. In the next episode, we are going to work on the login screen. We have already set up all this, so we are going to work on the login screen and then try and finish the forget password in the same episode. But before that, let's go ahead and push our changes to Git. So I head over to my terminal, look at my Git status, and then I have these files here, as you can see. So I'm just going to add all of them, git commit, and my message is completed. And what have we completed? The verification screen. Okay, let me say with Hive storage. Okay, and then I push this, and then I head over to my PHP project. Same thing, git status, git add, git commit, completed, and then logout endpoint added. Okay, so the logout endpoint has been added, and then git push. All right, so I'll be providing a link to the repositories in the description below. If you have not subscribed, please do so. Share, like, and comment. If you have any questions, you can send me a message on Discord at devsafo. I'm going to also add that to the description. See you in the next episode.